All right, everybody. I'll see you on the other side. Good evening, sweet and beloved lights of the universe. This time that we spend with you, absorbing the insides and the outsides of your stories, of your parameters, of your geographies, of your circumstances, and of your truest and deepest knowing. You know, it is such a precious time for us. And this is your soul group, Zarina, your collective consciousness, the divinity that you are in radiant and collaborative expression. And one of the things that we so enjoy about this time is in listening to that deep, deep foundational note, that base in awareness that is shared, that is uniformly shared and corresponds from soul to soul. Each of you have and possess and live and move and have your being in this deep foundational note of peace, deep peace. And we feel it and we surrender to it. And it indeed is like an enchanting lullaby. It is a song and a story that we are well familiar with, for we have known you and been you throughout the ages, throughout the eons, throughout every single moment, ever since the dawn of time and beyond. And having said all of that, we'd like to bring in our first guest who showed up for this channel as she was on a walk. Without further ado, we bring to you a gentleman who is important to you in this country. We'll let him introduce himself. We withdraw so that our first speaker may enjoy your company. Good evening, dear, dear ladies. I have a name that is well known in your country. Please do not let it throw you. But on Earth time, my name was George Washington. Yep, that's me. General George Washington, your first president. I'm here today because as this one was walking along a road that I had walked along back in the Revolutionary War, as she walked along it with her dog, I heard her say out loud to her dog, "Pisces, this is where George Washington walked with his soldiers." And I thought to myself, isn't that something? That all these centuries and decades and heartbeats later, there is somebody still walking on a path that I walked upon. And yet their walk is so completely different. They're on that path to enjoy themselves, to look at beauty, to feel at one with nature. I was on that path to get from one place to another and to make sure that my soldiers enjoyed a final, conclusive victory. And I found myself thinking of the soldiers that worked for me, that were conscripted, that came from the country that you call Germany these days. In our time, they were called Hessians. And they were, many of them, a miserable lot. Many of them had been sold into the military, kind of like a form of slavery, forced into serving overseas in a war they knew nothing about. Their families and their villages sold them, gave them away. When the British came, these Hessian soldiers were, were conscripted to fight for the British. And when I engaged with the British, many of these fierce fighters became my responsibility. And it became my job to march with many of them after the battles had been won, to lead them backwards, so that they could get back to their home country. They were a miserable lot. They were despised. They had a reputation in the war of being incredibly fierce and frightening. Your legend of the headless horseman is based on these very frightening Hessian soldiers. And yet I remember distinctly when the battles were won, and I had many of these young German men in my company, in my responsibility, when it became my job to make sure that they were fed, that they had a safe place to sleep, that they were not mistreated, and that they were cared for with dignity, as all prisoners of war ought to be cared for. It was then that I had the opportunity to look into their eyes and see not strangers, not fellows who were so hell bent on fighting that they would have done anything horrible and fierce to win their side of a war. What I saw instead were lost young men who had been kicked out of their home. And that, my dear sisters, is what haunted me in the very beginnings of the creation of this democracy. How many haunted young souls and old souls would gather in this country, I wondered, looking for home? How many of these souls would come here with anger in their hearts and need to be told, you belong. You are not a stranger. You are not a slave. Well, as you know, the rest is history. And since then, many souls have come to this place that you call America, and they have brought with them their feelings and their fears and their stories of slavery, their feelings of being disowned, of pushed out, of not seen. They have brought with them their stories that have made them feel less than, and they have come here. Now, let me tell you a story of one particular Hessian, a Hessian whose ancestors I have the good fortune to visit regularly as I wander from place to place in this, your country now. For one of these Hessian soldiers, as he was being marched away, led away from the battlefields, led away down through Massachusetts and into Connecticut and across over into New York State, one of these Hessian soldiers managed to fall in love with a young girl who was the daughter of a farmer, and managed to convince her that he would make a good husband for her, and managed to convince her father and her mother of the same. And so he left. He left that band of marching soldiers. He escaped, and he went off into the countryside, and he built for himself a life of peace. He himself became a farmer. He had children. His children had children, and their children had children. His ancestors have peppered the countryside, have moved throughout New York State and Connecticut and Massachusetts and all of New England. I have found them down in the deep South and up in Alaska. They have moved everywhere. And do you know the beautiful, blessed thing? None of them have ever felt since his lifetime that they were conscripted or sold or enslaved in any way. All of his ancestors have lived the life of their choice. All of them have found their personal freedom. All of them have found their inner power. All of them have left the slavery of being a terrorist and found their freedom in being loving, simple, productive people. And my daughters and my sweet friends, does it surprise you to know that these ancestors of this once upon a time incredibly fierce Hessian soldier, these ancestors are my proudest victory. They are my revolution. They are what I count as my victory. Now, there are many such as these, many who have taken their swords and beat them into plowshares. But perhaps it was because I looked into the eyes of this particular fellow. I remember him well, a haunted young man, a young man who'd been chased and beaten and brutalized and forced into acts of savagery that would just make your skin crawl. Indeed, it was as though his soul had been raped for the sake of a battle. And then he fell in love. And then he brought his heart into the earth itself. And then his children did the same. And that, my dears, is the real victory, the real revolution. You stand right now, all of you, on the cusp, on a precipice in this now country, in this now moment, where for so many of you, what has been deep down inside the soldier, the marine, the fighter, the pirate, the ship's mate, for so many of you have past lives in which you have served in military campaigns. So many of you, so many that it is hard to keep up with. But now each and every one of you are like that beautiful Hessian soldier. You have fallen in love. You have fallen in love with the truth of your being. You are ready to plant yourself on this earth. You are ready to give your life blood to the green and to the growing and to the always evolving, not only of this country, but of this world. I am no longer what you might consider to be a patriot. I left all that behind when it became clear that that young fellow who initially looked so scared and so haunted and so scarred and so bruised, when that young fellow fell in love, I ceased being a patriot and I became a human being. Oh, of course, I love this country. How could I not? But I love something more than this country. I love the idea that this country is founded upon, the idea that anyone from anywhere with any story is allowed to evolve and take their place among the peacemakers in the universe. I'm so glad that you've given me your ears and your hearts on this beautiful summer's evening. And I am so glad for this place that we call the United States of America, because I know in my heart that there are soldiers everywhere in this country who are ready to fall in love and, in fact, have fallen in love. I know I have. I am now in love. I am in love with freedom, with liberty, with justice for all. I am in love with the pursuit of happiness that I see in every tree and boulder, every rock and every rill. I am in love with the very nature of the divine. I am in love with all of you. I am in love with the process of democracy. I am in love with what I know is true. And my beloveds, I know that I am in resonant company because I feel that you are also in love with what is true. Thank you for listening. I leave you, but I am always with you, not as the father of your country, but as your brother, as your counselor, as your coach, and as somebody who believes that each and every one of you are the victory that I dreamed of. Thank you. Blessings to you. And this is your group Souls Arena. We wanted to thank our dear George Washington for stepping in and speaking to us with such clarity about the movement of ferocity to faith and what it means for each and every one of us. And now we are gathering energies and we feel the approach of our next speaker. His energy is so familiar to many of you here. Without further ado, we step aside so that our beloved Master Saint Germain may come forward. Please welcome our dear friend, Master Saint Germain. Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for that beautiful, warm, and very cozy welcome. It's just delightful to be welcomed in this way. So many of you smiled as you began to feel my energy approaching. I so appreciate that. You know, no matter where we are on the journey, it's always a blessing to feel liked, to feel appreciated, to feel as though you matter. And you, dear ones, always make me feel as though I matter, as though I'm special. And I have to tell you, that is an enormous joy and a privilege for me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Bless you. I wanted to speak to you tonight about what it means and what the conversation is revolving around this phrase, the end of the road. And if you think to yourself and imagine a road in front of you, and you know that as that road moves forward in front of you, that it will appear to be narrowing in the distance. That is the illusion that distance brings, that illusion of things narrowing in front of us. And so it is often assumed by the aspiring and pilgriming soul that the end of a journey, the end of a road, is a narrowing. Can you see that? Because of our belief system, because of what we experience in the material world, because of what the painters have shown us. That sense of looking off into the distance, and we think we see the end of the road, and it seems to narrow to a specific point. But of course, beloved ones, it's not true, is it? And of course, there is no end of a road. There is, however, what I am delighted to call and to bring to all of our attention. There is, and there are many turning points, places where the pathway turns or where it evolves, where it was once used as one conveyance and now suddenly we're using it for something else. And our beloved George Washington just brought this up when he mentioned that a pathway or a road that he had been walking on in times of a military campaign is now used purely for pleasure, purely for feeling into the beauty of nature. This is an instance of a road not ending, but pivoting and turning. And so, in your place on this planet at this particular time, there are many such roads that may appear to be ending, but in fact, they are simply pivoting. And what then increases as you masterfully take that pivot, what increases is a new vast horizon. You know, beloved ones, that every time you give yourself permission to pivot, to turn, to move again, to let go, to surrender, and to decide that there is an aspect of your life that you can let go of. Every time you do that and make that pivot in your consciousness, you are in fact inheriting more of the universe, more soul topography. You receive more the more you are willing to let go of. Now, you all understand this, and you all know this already. But I am excited to bring forward into your consciousness the knowing that this idea of the end of the road being a pivoting place is now moving rapidly across the World Wide Web. And I don't mean the internet, I mean the web of consciousness. That many such pivoting places are appearing all over your dear planet. I shall describe them to you, if I may. They look like many triangles of light. And at each corner of the triangle, there's a beautiful, beautiful little bursting of light. That is a pivoting place. With that burst of light comes an incredible new array of shapes, of geometrical design. There is an expansion at hand. This is the rebirthing of consciousness. This was, in fact, foreseen, many, many years ago. I'm going to share with you something now that I don't know if I've ever shared before, but you know of the Gnostic community, do you not? These beautiful men and women who lived very strict and ascetic lives, oftentimes in the desert. The Gnostics, who were, of course, obsessed, one might say, with knowing themselves. Well, my friends, I was a Gnostic. I belonged to that community. Their ways were my ways for a very long time. And I traveled with the Gnostics as long as I could until it became clear to me that they were not interested in the end of the road, meaning to say they were not interested in the pivot. They were interested in the status quo. They were happy with what they had discovered. It filled them, but they were not curious about what lay ahead. Well, I became restless, and it became imperative for me to pivot, to say farewell to that dear community, and to move along a pathway in my own way, taking my spiritual inheritance with me, bringing it into all kinds of other cultures and other topographies. I am no different from you, my dear ones. So many of you have taken journeys with communities. And then, when the community no longer was interested in that pivoting point, and when your inner curiosity just became too much, so many of you have said a fond farewell and moved along your way, creating beautiful, new, astonishing pathways. You might say that it was my insatiable curiosity for what is always new that kept me always young, for you know that this was my reputation. People would joke, "Have you seen Germain? He hasn't changed a bit. He hasn't aged one iota." What is it that kept me so young, century after century? Beloveds, it was my curiosity. I wanted to know what was around that pivot, and I wanted to be in the body to experience that pivot in consciousness. And my dears, that's exactly what I did for many years, as you know. I chose to stay in my body, delighting in that deep divine curiosity, choosing to move with the pivot and choosing to invite myself into wider and wider pastures. This is what I see you doing. Yes, I do. Each and every one of you. This is what I see you choosing to do. You do not have to make the choice that I did and stay in a body for centuries. That is not a necessary choice. But what I do see you doing, because of your beautiful, insatiable curiosity and of your beautiful willingness to pivot and to turn, what I do see you doing is creating new patterns of thought that do have longevity and last for centuries. So, in a sense, your pivoting consciousness will be here for quite some time. Consider yourselves as the escorts of the new age. Consider yourselves as the major domos of this restaurant of change that you all are a part of. You need to be here, don't you? It's important. Now, whether you are here in your physical body or in your etheric body really makes no difference whatsoever. But I can tell that you have all decided, yes, we will remain. We are a part of this pivot and we will stay until everyone is on board with this new and beautiful boat, this new beautiful sea change. And I couldn't be prouder of you. I couldn't be more excited to get on that boat with you, beloved ones. Well, you've let me yammer on for quite some time, and you know I am so grateful. Thank you for listening to your old Uncle Germain. You've made me a very happy fellow tonight, and I hope that I have brought you some happiness as well. Bless you, dear ones. Bless you. This is your group soul. We want to thank our Master Saint Germain for coming in and for speaking to us in such an engaging and inspiring way. We have another messenger who is stepping forward. We don't know her name, but we know her visage. She represents as a seamstress, and she has come forward and we are withdrawing. And so we allow the seamstress to have her time with you. Good evening, beloveds. In truth, I have no name. I am a nocturnal activity. You may call me a seamstress if you like, for it is my ongoing and always task to be sewing together the different fragments of thought, the different life experiences, to bring them together like an enormous patchwork quilt, to sew them throughout your sleeping time, throughout your dream time, throughout the times when you are sitting and staring. I am at work. I am a seamstress, and I am binding together all loose and disparate thoughts. I am the very pattern of the universe that brings everything and everyone into a purposeful whole. Never, ever doubt that you are of enormous use to the universe. When you have what you believe to be a dangling thought or daydream, and when you consider how many of these dangling thoughts and daydreams that you have, you might be tempted to think that these dangling thoughts and daydreams are discarded or thrown away, that they are not useful to the universe. And yet I say to you that every single one of your random thoughts, your considerations, your preoccupations, your daydreams, and your night dreams, all of them, all of the activity of your mind, every single particle of energy that your minds are, is always being used by me, by what I am calling tonight the seamstress. I have had other names. People have called me the Holy Spirit, the whole Spirit. People have called me love. People have called me the power of attraction. People have called me harmony. People have called me ongoing evolution. Some people have even called me glory on display. Whatever you call me, know that I am integral to the fabric of your being. And I could not do this glorious work without you. Never think that you yourself are somehow not needed by the greater whole of the universe. I need all of you. I need every single inch of you. I need the aspects of you that are frayed or broken or don't feel good. I need your sadness. I need your grief. I need your disorientation. I need your fear and your anger. I need all of your emotions. Give them all to me so that I may complete my work, this beautiful, ongoing, loving tapestry, this beautiful, beautiful blanket, this comforter, this knowing that we are all in this together and that we all deeply, deeply matter. Thank you for listening from the deep well of your being. I'm going to step aside, and your next speaker is jumping ahead without Serena's introduction. Beloveds, this is your brother Yeshua. I had to come in when I heard the Comforter speak of herself in these beautiful, loving, glorious terms: the whole Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Shekinah, the holy breath. Isn't it nice to know that she is you and she is we? We, all of us together, we are this whole Spirit, are we not? We are this harmonizing love, are we not? And it is indeed a deep comfort. It is a comfort. It is meant as a comfort, is meant for all of us, for me, for you, for every least twig, for every random thought, for every creature, for every photon, for every star and every black hole and every manifestation in this galaxy, in this universe, and for all universe and all dimensions. It is meant for every single fiber of being as a comfort. It is meant to feel like an enormous blanket, a security blanket that reminds all of us that we are never apart from each other, that we love each other so much that we would count the hairs on each other's head, that we would count each other's eyelashes, that we would listen to the murmuring of each other's heartbeats and consider that to be enough of an orchestra to fill us with joy. This is what is meant by the Comforter, by the whole Spirit, the Holy Spirit, she who draws all things and all aspects always together, the love that we are, your true magnetic, enormous essence. Truly, what we are comfort. And so I invite you, dear beloved ones, to know this, to feel this, to feel this comfort. Let it hold you. Give yourself permission to know that right now there is a whole coterie of energies counting the hairs on your head, listening to your heartbeat, following your breath in and out of your body. Know that you are being loved so deeply that this love pierces and impregnates every aspect of your being. There is no aspect of you that is not adored and counted and useful. Always, always so useful. From my own life, I was able to demonstrate this when, as I died, I turned to that dear soul next to me and I said, behold, today you'll be with me in paradise. You are useful. Your words are useful to me. What isn't known that I took the other fellow with me as well. I wasn't going to exclude him. How could I? How could I? When my heart had learned that love is not earned, it is simply given. Blessed ones, dear sisters, dear hearts, dear ones who escort us now in this next pivot, be comforted. You are the light that moves the entire universe. We are this light. Know that all is well. As you stand upon your earth crust and you feel her wobble and you hear her cry and you experience the devastation of climate change. Yes, all of this is happening. And, beloved ones, peace is also happening at the same time. All of you are with me in that boat. All of you are with me in that boat with that raging storm, with hurricanes and floods and wars and rumors of wars and disease and contagion and conflict and strife. And we are all in this boat together. And together we all stand up and together we all say, peace, peace, be still. We are the comforters. And we are also the comforted. And so, beloved ones, come with me. Come with me onto that boat once again. Let me wrap you in comfort. Let's be in this storm together. Let's feel each other's heartbeats. Let's pay attention to each other's breathing. Let's know that as we comfort each other, that we are indeed comforted and nothing can separate us. And lo and behold, look now at the event horizon. Look now at what used to look like the narrowing visage. Look now, beloveds of my heart. Look now and see that sun rising on a peaceful, peaceful ocean. It is accomplished. It is finished. And we are all doing it together. Oh, dear comforts of my heart, I love you so. Bless you. This is your group soul, Zarina. It is being suggested in this now moment that we simply rest in the arms of spirit, that we take some time now to notice that the universe is counting the hairs upon our heads, that the universe is noticing our eyelashes, that the universe is feeling into the fabric of our being, that the universe is using every single fiber of our being and creating a glorious mantle of light, that the universe now wraps us in this light and calls us forward and tells us, not only are you the comforters, you are also the comforted. Be well as the peace that you are. Many blessings, dear ones. It is time to very slowly bring yourselves forward, remembering your commitment to your beautiful physical body, to every particle of being, remembering that you have come here to be the expression of light in your own unique way. And we bless you. Namaste.